Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, February 1st. I skipped yesterday. I did not play D&D with my buddies. One of my buddies was not available to play. However, Austin was available. So I did play Mutants and Masterminds with Austin. And so we have the first episode of his story arc recorded. I will say I feel a little bad about it. I went too long between sessions, and I was rustier at some of the rules than I wish I would have been. But we pushed our way through, and now we got a schedule for him and Bob to both be available to do his second session. And I had a plan for today because it's movie day, and I was like, oh, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna watch a movie. Oh, I watched one that's like based on a book that never got a sequel. Let's do another one of those because there's another one on that same shelf, and I was gonna do that. That was the plan. However, something came up. See, yesterday, every Monday, Cool Stuff Inc. has a new sale. And I always check it out, because I'm like, well, what can I get? And I was able to get some stuff, so I got more minis coming. Anyways, their sale for this week is called Groundhog Day Sale, and I'm just like, why on earth would it be called Groundhog Day Sale? Then why wouldn't that be closer to Groundhog Day? When is Groundhog Day anyways? February 2nd. Oh, it's tomorrow. Oh. Groundhog Day's tomorrow. Well, I had a plan for what movie I was going to watch, but I don't get to do that. Because I made a promise to my brother. See, my brother was a little upset that I have never seen Groundhog Day. And Groundhog Day is on the shelf here that I'm working on this year. So I gotta watch it, and it makes the most sense to watch Groundhog Day close to Groundhog Day. That way I get to watch Groundhog Day and Groundhog Day and Groundhog Day as I'm just about getting to Groundhog Day. You know, figure out what's gonna happen when I wake up tomorrow. I know I obviously know the day repeats. But like the front of the box says, a romantic comedy fantasy that is Bill Murray's best screen performance. And I'm like literally just now I looked at it and I was like, a romantic comedy? I clearly have no idea what the plot line of this movie is. But I gather my brother likes it. I gather he's not going to agree with my opinions because I'm going into it without nostalgia. Because I've never seen this movie. But I've owned it for a great many years. And finally, I'm going to watch Groundhog Day. And, Groundhog Day isn't quite the easiest one to put a score to. It was actually quite good. Better than I expected, at least. And yet I know a score I give it is going to be too low for a great many people for whom this is an incredibly nostalgic movie. But I will give it a 7.8 out of 10. From the back of the box, Bill Murray is at his wry, wisecracking best in this riotous, romantic comedy about a weatherman caught in a personal time warp on the worst day of his life. Teamed with a relentlessly cheerful producer and a smart aleck cameraman, TV weatherman Phil Connors is sent to Puxaconny, Pennsylvania to cover the annual Groundhog Day festivities. After a surprise blizzard traps him in small-town hell, things get even worse. Phil wakes the next morning to find out it's Groundhog Day. All over again, and again, and again. I find this cover so weird. Because that's not the alarm clock that he has in the movie. That's not the style of alarm clock. And yet, I've owned this DVD for many years. Never watched the movie, but owned it. There's plenty of movies on the shelf like that. And so, in my mind, each morning he wakes up and he hits this style of alarm clock. That's not what the movie has. And the movie, like the style of alarm clock and all that, like, is certainly, like, it is important. Like, there are some amazing shots of that alarm clock because they have to keep showing that alarm clock and hearing a little bit of Sonny and Cher over and over to try and get into it. It's interesting. To some extent, there are parts of it that are typical Bill Murray comedy. Decent, fine. But there are definitely some psychological twists to it. Some very dark areas that it goes to as he goes mad from reliving the same day over and over. I mean, it's a weird thought to even imagine. Well, how would I react? I don't know. I do not know. Nor do you. That is a really weird situation. I mean, it's romantic comedy is between him and the producer. But when he goes to Puxagani, that's not even a thought in his mind. He just spends time at some point getting to know people because why not? He has more than all the time in the world. And literally nothing better to do with it. There are definite points where certain days, depending on where they end, it gets to be night, and I feel like that's not enough snow for the blizzard that they're supposed to be having that's keeping them there. So that was there's just a few evenings. The evening where he decides, you know what, I can have a high-speed chase with the cops down the railroad tracks. It felt like, well, this is nighttime, but no blizzard. Why? So that one didn't make sense to me. That was, I'm gonna call probably continuity error, unless someone can explain why. Because obviously, earlier, when they're on the highway, it was not that late, and blizzard had already began. And they don't say why. What happened? What caused this? Like, I'm watching early in the movie, and I'm seeing things, and I'm like, okay, he's hitting on the head with a shovel. Is that it? Maybe? I don't know. Like, what? But there's no definitive here. It's just, it happens. Which I guess is their prerogative, but I don't enjoy it as much. Why? Why is he reliving that day? That doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't just happen. Even if we're saying, well, there is magic and whatever in the world, like, well, what magic caused it? Who did that? Why? What? Was it a curse? Voodoo? Hoodoo? I don't know. So that part bothered me. Relatively low effects, Obviously some things, exploding car, special effect kind of thing. But I mean, majority of the movie is, rather mundanely shot, simple. And there's a point, mid to late movie, with the producer where he starts, and I go into it, and I'm aware of the idea is, oh, he has to become a better person to get out of this. Something about that has to do with it. And I know that. Where, he begins with his explanation of, I am a god. And, just going through situations that leaves her convinced, okay, maybe something's going on here. And in that, while still very mad, wild, he seems to care. He seems to be kind. And I think at that point, is that it? Maybe, is this going to be is this the end of the movie? Are we getting to it? And no. He goes much further than that. To the fact where all the time that he's spent perfecting odd skills, learning French, learning to do ice sculptures, learning piano, all these things. He spends the same level of skill of learning how he can help people. Where do people need help? When do people need help? And how can he be there and ready? And for that, Rita falls for him. And again, until I read the box, well, literally on video, pulling it off the shelf and looking at me, romantic comedy? I didn't know there was a romance element to the movie. I didn't. That was not what I knew of the movie. That had no entrance of my mind about the romance side of it. And I think that's a lot of what caused me to really like the movie as much as I did, is that interaction and the development of that relationship, where he is learning a whole lot about her and she has almost no time to learn much at all about him. But so unusual, but I don't know, a little sweet how it progresses. I'll be watching it at least once more, because the box tells me there's an audio commentary from director Harold Ramis, who was one of the Ghostbusters with him. He directed this, so he's involved with this film too. That's interesting. He's the one that worked with him on Ghostbusters. But as it's a movie I've never seen before, I haven't seen the bonus features. So I gotta get started on bonus features. That's one of the things. I keep my movies separated. They're in binders in the closet. Most of those boxes are empty. Although as I'm watching the movie, I'm restocking the boxes finally. But for years, I didn't, I had those boxes, stuffed away in a box. Well, I want them out so I can see them, so I can want to watch movies more. That was part of the goal, getting the shelves. So I'm putting the movies back in them as I watch them. And I have a separate binder that's movies I've not watched since I bought them. And as I watch those ones, I watch the bonus features. I'm a film major. Starting because I love the bonus features on the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But just in general, I like hearing the stories behind the movies. I like seeing some of what was done. I like that. So I got a few from this movie to watch. And I'll probably do a bit of that tonight. Otherwise, that's it. Good enough for my evening. Thank you for joining me, and join me as my journey continues. Bye.